I'm going to be recording a jump to spreader tutorial today. So let's just get right into it. So first thing, if you don't know what spreader is, if you have a stunt tank and your legs are out here up in the wheelie, that's spreader. Not to be confused with things like Frogger or Podium. Also YouTube private lot, don't be mad at me. Anyway, first things first, if you want to learn to jump to spreader, I'm assuming you know how to use your handbrake. I think one of the first things you probably should know how to do is, if you're in a sit down wheelie, dipping with your handbrake. Keep my foot off the foot brake so y'all can see. And we're just gonna dip with the handbrake. So if you can dip with the handbrake, and also you should have a handbrake. Don't be trying to do this stuff with no handbrake, that's dumb. So dip with the handbrake. Now hop in your tank and then start doing clutch ups. And also you need to be able to cover, you know, I probably mentioned this in my handbrake tutorial video, but you want to be able to be covering both of these at once. It may help if your bars are rolled forward a little bit, and you might want to be careful about having your handbrake angled too low, because you don't want to lift your knee up. Like right now, if I lift my leg up, I'm not going to mouse trap myself. But some people, maybe if I like stick my foot all the way out, but some people, if your handbrake's angled too low, you might mouse trap yourself jumping in and kicking your handbrake. So careful of that too. But anyway, just hop up in your tank, and you know, if you're uncomfortable sticking your legs out, you can just hook them on the cages. Pop it up. Wow, look at that. Riley's starting to kind of get into circles. He just did a pretty big rotation. So yeah, you're just gonna want to start popping up in the spreader. Try to get it to where you can hold balance point. Try to get it to where you can dip it. It's good to know how to go ahead and be dipping spreader before you hop into it. Because once you hop into it, a lot of times once people start learning a combo, because spreader's probably going to be your first trick that you start learning with your tank. A lot of people, once they start learning a combo, they start chasing real hard the second they start moving around. So yeah, so now let's get into transitioning into it. There's two ways to jump into it. You can sit in the seat and jump in like that, or you can be in the seat stander, squat down and pop in like that. I don't know which one's going to be easier, but I think probably the easier one is going to be jumping in from the seat. So you're just going to pop it up, hold balance point, cover in your handbrake, and I move my feet to where the balls of my feet are covering the pegs, and then just jump in. Oof. I jumped so hard I smacked my bars right there. So it's a good thing my handbrake's not angled real low like I was telling y'all about. Just pop it up, jump it. Now there's two ways to exit spreader. The way that I just did it, you're basically just gonna kick back into the seat. The other way, you're basically gonna be leaning forward. It's like basically I'm putting my balls up to my cap. That way I can lean my feet back and be on the seat. If you just sit in it and you try to get your feet back, they're not gonna reach. You gotta rotate and lean forward, get up in the seat. Okay, now that you know that, let's get into jumping into it from the seat stander. Alright, so now that we're in a wheelie, we're standing up, we're gonna squat down, and then you're gonna pop in. But first, I want you to just hold it like this, where you're just squatted down and you're just holding it real good. Because a lot of people, what's gonna happen the second you squat down, you start dropping off the throttle and you start chasing, like the very second that you start squatting down. So I want y'all to kind of get used to popping it up and just holding this squat, kind of like Frogger position before you jump in. And then once you get used to holding balance point from that, just gotta take it, pop in. When I say squat down, I mean like ass to ankles, like as far as your knees can bend. Because if you're doing this like half jump, like the fall that you have to make to land in there, look at this, like from here, that's a huge fall. But if you squat all the way down, it's a small little pop in. And now once you start jumping in, you're probably going to be chasing as soon as you get in it, and that's normal. But that's why I was trying to teach y'all that it might be good to learn to dip in the spreader before you get to the part of jumping in, That way now, if you start chasing, once you jump in, you could just dip right away. Because it's going to be kind of hard to just hold a perfect balance point while you transition between all the tricks. A lot of the time, you're going to kind of like chase and dip, or at least that's kind of like more of the style that I have. And I kind of prefer that more anyway than just holding a perfect balance point, because when you hold a perfect balance point, any combo that you do between a trick, you can be smooth and slow and precise or whatever, but if you like kind of jumping around, bouncing around, you're going to be just like smacking into the bike. You're more of like colliding with the bike in that kind of trick than flowing with the bike. So I like to, you know, kind of go into it, maybe do a little dip or something like that, chase, dip, and pop back forward off of like, how do you explain that? If I go back and dip a little bit on the brake forward, I jump in with the bike instead of just holding it and falling into the bike. Yeah, and then from there, once you're in the spreader, you know, simply like once you're in it, how you're in it doesn't really matter. But you know, working on a little flexibility. I'm not that flexible, but working on some flexibility so you can go wide probably is going to look a little better. I would try to go a little, like, just simply for looks. It doesn't actually matter if you do it this way, but if you just want it to look nice, trying to go a little wide, but keeping a little bit of like looseness looks good to me. If your like legs are straight out, it looks a little funky, kind of look uncomfortable, so I wouldn't go for that. But if that's the way you prefer it, do it however you prefer it. So yeah, now once you get used to it, you can, oh my gosh, you can combo into the spreader from other stuff. Like a lot of times I do a little foot drag to the spreader, and then from within spreader you can do like 50-50 and high chair. And when you're learning stuff like that, that could be probably a separate video maybe, but things like that too, when you're first getting used to them, I'd probably just clutch up in them, learn to dip in them. Woo! I hit another bump. That's terrifying, man. I don't want to be doing tricks like that in a bumpy lot. Alright guys, so if you enjoyed this tutorial, if this helped you at all with your spreader, or maybe made the thought of learning it a little less intimidating, let me know in the comments. Drop a like if you like it, drop a dislike if you dislike it. And yeah, let me know what other kind of tutorials you want to see in the future. I think I'm gonna probably start working on a circle wheelie one. I'm not a pro at circle wheelies by any means, but I've got to the point where I might be able to start helping, so helping y'all learn that kind of stuff. So thank you for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.